Hello, my fellow weirdlings. It's Margot, and today I'm bringing you some of California's most intriguing urban legends and local lore. If you're ready to get spooked and spine tingled, keep watching. An urban legend, or contemporary legend, is a genre of folklore comprising stories circulated as true, especially as having happened to a friend of a friend or family member, often with horrifying or humorous elements. California leads the nation in UFO reports, with 16,000 sightings listed in two databases, the National UFO Reporting Center and the Mutual UFO Network. By far, Los Angeles County outranks any other in California, as well as 40 states, with 3,200 sightings reported. One puzzling incident is now known as the Battle of Los Angeles. On the evening of February 24, 1942, a few months after the attack on Pearl Harbor and just 2 days after the attack on Santa Barbara's Elwood oil field by Japanese submarines, a mysterious ship appeared in the sky over Los Angeles. Already jittery and assuming it was the Japanese, the U.S. military fired 1,440 anti-aircraft shells at the craft. This ultimately contributed to 5 civilian deaths, 3 from traffic accidents resulting from the chaos, and 2 from heart attacks. The Japanese denied having any planes over the U.S. What was actually fired upon that evening? Theories include aliens, weather balloons, and overactive imaginations caused by wartime jitters. Palm Springs was no stranger to UFO sightings in the 1950s. July 26, 1952, was a typical sunny afternoon in Palm Springs when 4 people, including a man with binoculars, spotted something strange in the sky. Described as a mysterious diamond-shaped object hovering in the air, it emitted blue and yellow lights. At first, the object seemed to be sitting quite still overhead, but then it began flying back and forth across the sky at an astonishingly fast rate, until it suddenly seemed to join with another unidentifiable object, flashing reddish-orange lights. The same afternoon, a military pilot claimed to have seen a similar object flying from Needles to Los Angeles. There's been no explanation for what these objects were. On September 5, 1954, 2 pilots in separate planes witnessed an unidentified object flying at high speed at about 13,000 feet above Palm Springs. Both pilots issued statements describing the object as emitting blue lights. On February 19, 1955, a witness reported seeing a bright, round object hovering in the Palm Springs sky. 4 days later, another witness saw a circular, multicolored object flying in the air. In 2004, the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier was off the coast of San Diego. Suddenly, one of the ship's fighter jets spotted an unusual object in the sky. The aircraft captured live footage of the incident on its infrared camera, but the witnesses, including highly trained military personnel, expert radar operators, and fighter pilots in charge of the most advanced flight technology, could not explain what they saw. Commander pilot David Fravor came in close contact with the objects and described them as 40-foot-long tic-tacs with no wings or propellers, moving at great speed, and in his opinion, something not from this earth. The USS Princeton missile cruiser had picked up signals of mysterious objects several days before the pilots discovered it in the air. The objects were witnessed at an altitude of 80,000 feet, much higher than any commercial or military jet is capable of flying, then dropped to ocean level at an incredible speed. New Year's Eve 2014 was a memorable one for many Californians when many people from Los Angeles to the Bay Area began reporting seeing unidentified objects in the sky. Some eyewitnesses managed to take videos of the objects hovering in the air for about a minute before they flew off at a very high speed. Civilians from Sacramento all the way to Stockton and Auburn came forth claiming they saw UFOs in Northern California. One of Sacramento's eyewitnesses stated the light from the object was so bright that it could shine through a forest without any problem. Not all mysterious craft are spotted in the sky. Hundreds of unidentified submersible objects, or USOs, have reportedly emerged from the waters between Santa Barbara and Santa Monica, and it's alleged that an undersea alien base has existed there for decades. Preston Dennett, author of the books UFOs Over California and Undersea UFO Base, has documented more than 50 water sightings, claiming that in the 1970s, families would head to Point Dume Beach at night to watch the multicolored light show for entertainment. Giant Rock, located in the Mojave Desert near Landers, California, is the largest freestanding boulder in North America and is purported to be the largest freestanding boulder in the world. Sacred to local Native American tribes, their spiritual leaders believe Giant Rock holds a power they can draw energy from, and that the rock represents the heart of Mother Earth herself. In the 1950s, after an already eventful history, Giant Rock became a mecca for believers in extraterrestrial visitors, while leased to an eccentric aviator, UFO enthusiast, and friend of Howard Hughes by the name of George Van Tassel. Van Tassel began holding meditation sessions at Giant Rock and quickly became convinced he was getting messages from outer space through the rock itself. One night, aliens called the Council of Seven Lights abducted him in their flying saucer and told him they wanted him to build a fantastic machine. This led him to the 34-year construction of the Integration Center, a white building a few miles from Giant Rock. With building progression slowed by lack of funds, Van Tassel started his Giant Rock spacecraft conventions, drawing hundreds of attendees every year, interested in UFOs, alien contact, and the paranormal. At its height, as many as 11,000 people attended these gatherings. Throughout the years, locals have reported strange sightings around Giant Rock, and it's never lost its reputation for being a place to spot UFOs and gain spiritual enlightenment. California certainly has no shortage of cryptids, roaming the woods, parks, lakes, ocean, and even terrifying people from their own lawns. The origins of the Billywhack monster date back to the 1940s, when a German national by the name of August Rubel owned the former Billywhack Dairy in Ventura County. It's said there was a secret underground lab beneath the dairy where Rubel conducted horrific experiments, attempting to create a super soldier to help with the war effort. This effort was not successful, but he did succeed in creating a monster. When he returned to his homeland, he apparently left the monster to fend for itself. Years later, reports began to surface of a strange creature roaming the area where the now abandoned dairy had stood. Many of these reports came from local high school students who told police that a large humanoid with goat-like horns and sharp claws was hurling rocks at their car. In 1964, hikers reported that they too were terrorized by a creature fitting the description of the Billywhack monster. On one bizarre summer afternoon in 1961, in the Los Angeles community of Watts, a strange dog-like creature with a woman's face was seen over several hours by multiple people in the area of East 103rd and Grape Streets. A Los Angeles police lieutenant named J.D. Rodier was quoted in the Los Angeles Herald as saying, "At first I thought it was a crank call, but for the next 3 hours similar calls kept coming in from that general area. I guess a lot of people saw this thing and they all described it as running on all fours and covered in hair, but it wasn't a dog or any other known animal, at least according to the reports." In the late 1990s and early 2000s, reports of a strange nocturnal creature walking around Fresno, California started cropping up, but the only evidence to its existence was word of mouth. It came to be known as the Fresno Alien or Fresno Nightcrawler. Finally, in 2007, a man named Jose discovered footage on his surveillance camera that revealed a pair of armless bipeds, each with 2 long legs and a small head, walking across his front lawn. Standing 3 to 4 feet tall with legs similar to a daddy long-legged spider and vaguely resembling a praying mantis, the creatures have also been described as extraterrestrial insectoid. Moving slowly and methodically, they seem to be gracefully gliding across the grass. Jose was so terrified by what he saw in the video footage, he didn't leave his home for 2 weeks. In March 2011, it was reported that caretakers at Yosemite National Park had mounted cameras to record possible vandals when 2 bipedal humanoid creatures appeared from the brush and meandered through the trees. Similar in physical structure to the Fresno Alien, these creatures looked as if they were wearing loose, skin-like clothing. The Sci-Fi Network show Fact or Faked Paranormal Files even included the Fresno Nightcrawler in one of their episodes, and the footage was deemed unexplainable. With hundreds of miles of coastline, thousands of lakes, and several rivers, it's no surprise California has its fair share of lake monsters and sea serpents. No less than 6 lakes in California have had stories about monsters residing in them, and at least 5 famous sea serpents have been sighted over time. Even the prehistoric and supposedly long-extinct megalodon shark has been reportedly sighted in northern California's waters. One such creature was known to reside in Elizabeth Lake, near Palmdale in Los Angeles County, with sightings dating back to 1880. But this monster is said to have been created by the devil himself. Rumor has it if you swim deep enough, you'll find a secret passageway to the underworld. Spanish missionaries named the lake Laguna del Diablo, or Devil's Lagoon. The lake lying directly on the San Andreas Fault probably doesn't help its reputation. Spanish settler Don Pedro Carrillo was the first to experience the creature's wrath. He built a ranch by the lake in the 1830s, and a fire burned every structure to the ground in a single night. Other settlers arrived in the 1850s, but strange screams at night, unnatural noises, and apparitions ran them off. Later settlers claimed to have seen the beast and shot at it, but witnessed the bullets bounce off its back. The monster of Elizabeth Lake is described as being over 50 feet long, with bat wings, the head of a bulldog, the neck of a giraffe, 6 legs, and the stench of rancid decay. For the next century, sightings of the monster would continue to be reported and scare off anyone who attempted to settle there. Landowners would sell or completely abandon their property after hearing awful screams and having terrible visions. Attempts to build on the lake's land would also fail, and farm animals would disappear. The Lake Elizabeth monster seems to have calmed down in recent years, but at least 3 lakes continue to have their own sightings today. Lake Tahoe, the second deepest lake in the U.S., is home to the lake monster Tahoe-Tessie. The largest natural freshwater lake in Southern California, Lake Elsinore, is home to Elsie, sometimes known as Hamlet. Lastly, the Lake Hodges Reservoir is home to Hodgie, a lake monster that the government reportedly tried to kill by poisoning the entire lake in 1956. Cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman has theorized that sea serpents may actually migrate along California's coast, much like whales and other sea life do. Moores Beach in Santa Cruz famously and controversially had the carcass of a sea monster wash ashore in 1925. More recent decades have brought to the San Francisco Bay the sea serpent now known as Sassy, who's actually been seen in the 2000s. Chulapa Monster washed up on the shores of San Diego some years ago, and many suspected it was a chupacabra that could swim. It is often blamed for deaths in the area and got its nickname from local fishermen. In the Santa Lucia Mountains, which run from Avila Beach to Monterey, the Dark Watchers are said to be giant human-esque phantoms that basically just stand watch from the mountaintops. Described as large, 7-foot-tall, phantom-like human figures that stand motionless atop the mountains, watching travelers below pass by. They're said to wear wide-brimmed hats, capes, and walking sticks, and are only visible at twilight or dawn. No one has ever seen a Dark Watcher up close, and if you try to approach them, they disappear. The Dark Watchers first emerged in Chumash Indian history and lore. Cave drawings by the Chumash even seem to depict these phantoms. More recent sightings came in the 1960s by a Monterey High School principal. The Dark Watchers made an appearance in author John Steinbeck's 1938 story Flight, where they were described as dark forms against the sky. They've also been referenced in the 1937 poem by Robinson Jeffers, Such Counsels You Gave to Me. While they may seem harmless, the Dark Watchers have been known to bring bad luck to those who see them. In the 1800s, many stories began circulating throughout Southern California and beyond about a spectral ship lying half buried in the desert sands. Around that time, many migrants after the Civil War passed through the desert on their way to California. Many reported that they saw a multi-mast Spanish galleon. Multiple expeditions went looking for the ship, but none found it. Some claimed that it was loaded with a fortune in pearls. There were also claims that the ship was haunted and could only be found at certain times of the year. One group claimed that the ship came from 1862 when several people built a 21-foot single-mast skiff mounted on wheels to transport themselves across the desert. When they reached the lowest point in the desert, they were forced to abandon the ship and continue on without it. In 1933, near Agua Caliente Springs, Lewis and Myrtle Watts from the small town of Julian, under directions from a strange prospector they had met the night before, stumbled upon the forward half of an old Viking ship sticking partway out of the mountains in Tierra Blanco Canyon. Sadly, shortly after they discovered it and before they could take any photographic evidence, a huge earthquake occurred and covered up the finding. Strangely enough, Native American legends actually support the theory that a Viking ship made it all the way around Canada, through the Arctic Circle, and down the west coast. The Seri Indians' legend states that the come-from-afar men arrived in a long boat with a head like a snake. These men apparently all had yellow beards and hair. They were also accompanied by a red-haired woman. The Mayo Indians also have legends involving a possible Viking ship. Their legend states that the ship sank off the coast and that the Mayo Indians took in the survivors. These survivors intermarried with the tribe, and this is the reason why even today, occasionally descendants of the Mayo Indians are born with blonde hair and blue eyes. So just like a lost Spanish galleon loaded with pearls, a lost Viking ship buried under the rubble might exist in San Diego County. Alcatraz is said to be extremely haunted. Even long before Alcatraz was Alcatraz, the Miwok Indians believed that evil spirits inhabited the island. There are ghosts of prisoners who died there and ghostly security guards. The sounds of rattling chains and unexplained gunshots can often be heard. There are spooky rooms like those in the medical ward, which creak and groan like any good haunted prison should. There's a room called the Hole in the depths of the prison that was used for solitary confinement and is the source of one pretty unnerving legend. The story goes that a prisoner was ranting and raving about a demon in his cell. The guards ignored the cries, knowing that many of the prisoners were mentally ill and prone to seeing things. The next morning, the prisoner was found strangled in his cell, with no apparent evidence or means that someone else had been in and out of the space. It's remained an Alcatraz mystery. Bodie is an authentic ghost town in every sense of the word. This historic landmark and museum is one of the best preserved Old West outposts and home to many entities, including the Angel of Bodie, a little girl who haunts her own gravesite. Ghostly miners protect their claims or visit the prospecting office, and just about every building in town has a ghostly tale of its own. The ghosts are pretty benign, but Bodie is a ghost town under the protection of a curse. The inhabitants of this old gold mining town were fiercely possessive about everything there. The curse ensures that everything they left behind stays that way. Even if you take a rock from Bodie, you're bound to experience misfortune and tragedy, possibly even after you've returned it. Park rangers have received many items that were taken by visitors. There's even an album filled with letters from those suffering from the curse. Taking anything from Bodie is also illegal. Basic laws of gravity state that what goes up must come down, but in California there are spots that are rumored to defy this basic truth. If you park at the base of a hill in specified locations and release your parking brake, your car will roll uphill. These spots are often accompanied by a legend as an explanation. For instance, a school bus broke down and the kids jumped out to push it up the hill, but lost control and the bus ran over them, killing them all. Now they push cars up hills as ghosts. A gravity hill, also known as a magnetic hill, mystery spot, gravity road, or anti-gravity hill, is a place where the layout of the surrounding land produces an optical illusion, making a slight downhill slope appear to be an uphill slope. Thus, a car left out of gear will appear to be rolling uphill against gravity. There are hundreds of recognized gravity hills around the world, but that doesn't make it any less mind-blowing. California's Mount Shasta, a potentially active volcano, has been the subject of an unusually large number of myths and legends, becoming very popular among conspiracy theorists. In particular, it's said to hide a secret city beneath its peaks. In some stories, the city is no longer inhabited, while in others it's inhabited by a technologically advanced society of human beings or mythical creatures. The most enduring lore centers on a theory about a hidden city called Telos of advanced beings from the lost continent of Lemuria. In 1899, Frederick Spencer Oliver published A Dweller on Two Planets, which claimed that survivors from a sunken continent called Lemuria were living in or on Mount Shasta. Oliver's Lemurians lived in a complex of tunnels beneath the mountain and occasionally were seen walking the surface dressed in white robes. In 1931, Harvey Spencer Lewis, using the pseudonym Weissar Spenley Survey, wrote a book published by the Rosicrucians about the hidden Lemurians of Mount Shasta, which has been described as responsible for the legend's widespread popularity. The belief has been incorporated into numerous occult religions, including I Am Activity, the Summit Lighthouse, Church Universal and Triumphant, and Cryon. According to legend, J.C. Brown was a British prospector who discovered a lost underground city beneath Mount Shasta in 1904. Brown had been hired by the Lord Cowdray Mining Company of England to prospect for gold and discovered a cave which sloped downward for 11 miles. In the cave, he found an underground village filled with gold, shields, and mummies, some being up to 10 feet tall. 30 years later, he told his story to John C. Root, who gathered an exploration team of about 80 people in Stockton, California. But on the day the team was to set out, Brown didn't show up. Brown was never heard from again. Mount Shasta has also seen other unusual happenings, with a mysterious 60-foot side hole that appeared over 10 years ago, becoming the subject of a documentary. Its sudden emergence connected with the local legends about the hidden city within. The first thought of documentary filmmaker Elijah Sullivan about the giant hole was that it was from people trying to find Lemuria. You'll hear a lot of people talking about Lemuria, maybe even asking for directions, he told the news in 2018. People make pilgrimages here. It's like a New Age Mecca. In 1987, the area was actually home to a New Age conference dubbed a Spiritual Woodstock. Mount Shasta is also known to be sacred to local indigenous tribes. According to the Klamath people, the volcano is inhabited by the spirit chief Skal, who descended from heaven to the mountain's summit. Skal fought with the spirit of the below world, Lao, who resided at Mount Mazama, by throwing rocks and lava, probably representing the volcanic eruptions at both mountains. Writer Joaquin Miller recorded various related legends in the 1870s. There's another strange legend that surrounded Mount Shasta for a very long time. Ever since people first started climbing Mount Shasta, there have been reports of little people who occasionally communicate with climbers. They're said to live in small dwellings on the mountain, and they also have access to fairy portals. Death is said to reside within the popular hiking spot in the Puente Hills Preserve near Whittier, known as Turnbull Canyon. The canyon was once referred to by the Gabrielino indigenous people as Hutukna, or the Palace of the Devil. The legend talks about the whole region being haunted by the local indigenous who were murdered for not converting to Catholicism. Their spirits are believed to be lingering in anger and unrest. Turnbull Canyon is full of weird stuff. A gravity hill, an abandoned insane asylum, ghosts, and supernatural sightings pepper the landscape. During the Great Depression, rumors circulated that the canyon was a meeting place for a satanic cult. The cult was said to buy children from local orphanages and kill them in dark rituals. The sinister cult suddenly vanished one night, leaving behind paranormal sightings and occurrences reported by hikers and locals, claiming to see hooded figures, hellish creatures, and mutilated children. Other mysterious deaths have occurred in Turnbull Canyon over the years, contributing to its tragic legacy and overall creepiness. A teenager was electrocuted while exploring the ruins of the old asylum, and a plane also crashed there in 1978, taking 29 lives. San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is home to one of the city's most famous ghosts. Stow Lake is said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman who, after attempting to save her child who fell in the water, drowned in the lake. Legend goes that this woman, referred to as the White Lady, wanders the edges of Stow Lake as she searches for her baby. Now, if you happen to visit the area at night, she may appear and ask you, "Have you seen my baby?" It is said that the most active area surrounding the lake is near the Pioneer Women and Children statue. Brave ghost seekers can also summon the woman by calling out, White Lady, I have your baby," 3 times. If she believes you, the woman will appear before you and will ask for her baby back. The legend warns both skeptics and believers against doing this, for if you tell her you have her baby, the woman will haunt you the rest of your life. If you tell the woman you don't have her baby after summoning her, legend says she will drag you into Stow Lake and give you the same watery death she suffered. Home of one of the most infamous urban legends in California, the iconic Hollywood sign is said to be haunted by early 1900s actress Peg Entwistle. When a devastating review was published about one of her films, Entwistle climbed to the top of the sign's H and threw herself off of it to her death. She is now called the Lady in White and is said to haunt the sign and the surrounding area. The legend states that the Lady in White will appear to people hiking to the off-limits part of the sign where she had killed herself. Instead of the beautiful Hollywood actress, what appears to these people is a woman with a skeletal face and deep hollowed-out eyes. If those hikers are alone, the Lady in White somehow influences them to share her own cruel fate. Many Hollywood sign suicides have been reported in the century following Entwistle's death, and in 2012 a man's decapitated head and mutilated body parts were found where Entwistle killed herself. Several memorable spirits are said to haunt the bridge in Camp Comfort County Park that crosses San Antonio Creek in Ojai, California. These include a bride wearing a bloody wedding dress, a horsewoman reenacting her death, and a headless motorcyclist. But none have been seen as often or left as terrifying of an impression as Charman. In fact, the bridge has been dubbed Charman Bridge. As his name implies, the Charman is all burned up from a fire with different origin stories. The accepted theory is that Charman is the survivor of a fire that took place in the 1940s, sometimes 50s or 60s, though others claim he's actually a hideous monster or demon. Either way, he now haunts the area and attacks passers-by, especially those who stop on the bridge, get out of their cars, and yell, "Help me." The legend goes that in the woods, you can sometimes see a horrifying shape, not quite beast, not quite man. If you stop your car near those woods, this burning, disfigured thing may charge out and try to kill you, roaring like a raging inferno. People who have gotten away report ash marks and dents on their vehicles. Many of the people say they've been engulfed by fumes before seeing it. Those who faint always wake up to a small fire nearby. If you're in the area and you smell the rancid smell of burning flesh, don't linger around. And if you're driving on the bridge along Creek Road, don't stop for a closer look at Charman. One tiny piece of Route 66, the Colorado Street Bridge in Pasadena, has been around since 1912, and the first time someone jumped from it to take their life was 1919. Since then, there have been at least 100 suicides on the bridge. With suicides come ghosts, and some say the ghosts pressure people to jump as they walk along the bridge. So it's probably worth it to take a detour and stay away from this part of Route 66. Once known as the Grey Ghost, retired British ocean liner now permanently docked in Long Beach, the Queen Mary serves up chills in the form of screams from a decapitated sailor in the boiler room and visions of a lady in white roaming the halls. Visitors can choose from a handful of haunted tours or book a stay in stateroom B340 for overnight thrills. The infamous and endlessly strange Winchester Mystery House in San Jose was said to have been built to protect Sarah Winchester, heir to the Winchester Rifle Company, from the spirits of those killed with her late husband's famous line of rifles. Since her death, it's said to be haunted by the ghost of Sarah Winchester herself and is a popular tourist attraction. The legend associated with the Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve revolves around the White Witch. In the late 1870s, there was a nanny named Mary who was a caretaker for many of the miners' children. Over time, many of the children under Mary's care fell mysteriously ill and died shortly thereafter. The townspeople had already suspected Mary of witchcraft, and when they uncovered evidence of her sorcery rituals, their fears were confirmed. Mary was dubbed the White Witch and was hanged for her crimes. Since then, there have been numerous sightings of the ghostly white apparition hovering in the foggy evening twilight of the Black Diamond Mines. The now dilapidated Hollydale Sanatorium in Downey began as the LA County Poor Farm and once accommodated many tuberculosis, polio, and mentally ill patients. Some say that many deaths resulted from experimental testing in the purported insane asylum. One story describes a psychiatric patient who slit the throat of a priest during a ritualistic exorcism. To this day, there are reports of unidentified noises echoing from its vacant halls and strange lights and shadows flickering in the windows. A group of Marines even found a box of mummified legs in the freezer there during a training exercise in 2006. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed these stories and will come back for more. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and bring your friends, family, COVID pod, cult members, invisible friends, or enemies. And if you want me to share your story, I'll leave my contact info in the description box. Thanks so much for watching.